We've always assumed that NPR is just a taxpayer-funded group therapy for Donald Trump-hating, soy milk-sipping, EV-driving, CRT-loving, intersectional, blue-haired libs. But now a senior business editor at the company just confirmed it. It's all laid out in a new piece in the Free Press titled, "I've been at NPR for 25 years. Here's how we lost America's trust." He's blowing the lid off its left-wing bias, exposing how network ignored the Hunter Biden laptop and how Adam Schiff became their assignment editor.
We were trying to damage his presidency, to even find anything we could to harm him. And I think what we latched on to was Russia collusion, was just rumors, and a lot of it based on pretty shoddy documents or evidence. We really latched on to Adam Schiff. He was like our muse to the Trump collusion story. And then the Mueller report came out, and no collusion. And, I think we the story kind of disappeared.
He also said NPR is basically the DNC in disguise.
I got so frustrated with what I saw was the lack of different perspectives in our coverage. What I found was 87 registered Democrats on our editorial staff, 0 Republicans. Something's gone wrong here, where, if we're really thinking about diversity and our coverage. The response was, it wasn't like, wow, it wasn't like we're going to change this or try and address this somehow. It was just more like, wow, that's weird.
So, Greg, this was, we didn't see this coming, but brave man came out. He still works at NPR.
Yeah. Good for him, I say. We knew this was true, but we were mocked when we would bring this up. But 87 Democrats and 0 Republicans as NPR editors. That says everything. 87-0. That's like the score when I smoked Stevie Wonder in pickleball. The media really needs DEI, but it's of ideas and perspectives, which is the true test of diversity. How insulting is it if they're hiring you for being black as long as you're their kind of black, right? You have to think this a certain way. The numbers of NPR viewership are way down. They're basically like a fraction of what they used to be. And I think they're getting slaughtered for this reason, but also because podcasting is so full of independent thinkers who appreciate open topics. And the people in these podcasts, whether it's Rogan or Tim Dillon or whoever you like, they learn on the spot. They're willing to say when they're wrong. NPR is still in the model of manicured assumptions. They mow the lawn of interesting ideas. So when you turn it on, you won't get pricked by a little blade of grass. But this was all encouraged because the greater mission was defeating Hitler 2.0. If you don't break every rule and every professional guideline to defeat Hitler, i.e. Trump, then the history, which is written by the losers, not the winners, as we're told, you will not be looked on fondly. You will be seen as a collaborator or a coward. And that's all I have to say.
He mentioned how NPR was like the DNC because he said after Trump was elected, Dana, they spent all of their time just trying to damage Trump politically.
I am fascinated by this story. I'm grateful to the Free Press. I'm a happy subscriber. They are constantly driving news, and they have this place where Uri Berliner, who had tried to do the right thing internally inside the company to say, guys, I think we have a problem here. And he took it to the bosses. They had meetings scheduled, and all of a sudden they get taken off the books. Like they never actually wanted to meet with him. And then when he does this interview with the Free Press on the podcast and posts his piece, the first instinct that NPR has is to go after him. And one of the things that Alfonso said, Fernando Alfonso is a senior supervising editor for digital news. He's furious because he says, as a person of color who has often worked in newsrooms with little to no people who look like me, the efforts NPR has made to diversify its workforce that's not his point. He's talking about diversity of thought. And if you want to appeal to a mass audience, you're not going to get there. Podcasting, absolutely. There didn't used to be options of things to talk about. And so they didn't keep up with the times. I've loved shows like Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Car Talk was a great show. I love David Green, Don Gagne. I had a lot of time. But in the mornings, I've spent a lot of time at the White House listening to NPR, and I would get so mad at 5 a.m. They would make my head explode. And then about 4 months later, after the administration ended, my friend said, you realize you don't have to listen to that anymore, right? But I still, as a habit, I'd like to find out what they're doing. And I'm glad that he actually said it, because I thought I was the one going crazy, but turns out I'm actually perfectly sane.
No, you're perfectly sane, Dana. And now let's go to you, Jessica. Do you believe, as I do, that what this guy said about NPR is probably true for most liberal news organizations, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times?
Yes, and we have discussed that before. I think a cable news network is also a little bit different from a taxpayer-funded outlet, and that's really what the issue is here. And I lived in London for a long time, and these accusations are thrown around about the BBC as well, and you can even look at their
Also
coverage.
true.
Yeah, especially, I mean, it's a more recent example, obviously, than when I lived there, but their coverage of the Israel-Hamas war is a glaring example of that, and it got over to the New York Times. I mean, that was one of the most upsetting and horrifying internal debates about whether Hamas used sexual violence as a tool on October 7th, as if these women had their groins pulverized out of thin air or their breasts cut off. Obviously that's what they were using sexual violence for. My question that I would throw back to Berliner, though, about this is, so the Conservative Party, and I think whether you are a rhino or a Trump lover in all of this, everyone can acknowledge that it changed after 2016, that Trump has had this massive effect on the kind of ideology of the Republican Party. We don't hear about, limited government and cutting taxes as much as we hear about, let's say, social justice issues, or I shouldn't say social justice, kind of fighting the woke enemy issues, et cetera. Now, if you have someone like, we could take John Eastman, for instance, I already brought him up in the A Block, who wants to write something for NPR or to be a guest on there. And he's going to come on and he's going to say, the 2020 election was stolen, Joe Biden isn't the rightful president, et cetera. What do you do with that? And that, I don't think that Berliner addressed that in his piece or in the interview, that if conservatism has, for a large swath of people, like a majority of Republicans who think that Joe Biden isn't the rightful winner, not just there were some fraud issues, but actually that he didn't win. Do you platform those type of people?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what he was talking about. I think he was talking about 2016, Russia,
but it's a
laptop,
it's
COVID,
an extension
immigration.
of that.
He was.
No, it's not all about January 6th. Go ahead. Have you ever even listened to NPR, by the way?
Yeah,
No, you have not.
Of course I have.
Accidentally.
Oh, stop it, Jesse. Look, here's the thing, that NPR refused to cover Hunter Biden and the Hunter Biden laptop story because they agreed at NPR that it would help Donald Trump. Okay? And the problem with this is that this is a taxpayer-funded organization. And, I looked up NPR's mission. Just so you know, their words never really match their actions. They say, our mission is to celebrate humanity by hearing every voice.
Oh.
No, it's only the liberal voice. So they lie from the get-go. But I think that the amazing part of this is that it shows us that journalism is no longer objective and truthful and honest and all the things that we thought it was. Journalism is activism now. That's all it is on the part of, in the name of diversity. Diversity means only one thing, the color of people, and it has nothing to do with thought. And the amazing thing is this guy still works there. I mean, I give him credit for that. But here's the problem. There are some people who get all of their news from NPR. And for those people, they see a completely different reality. And, that's why discussion of this is so important. People think because it's taxpayer funded, they have to go right down the middle. And it took someone from the inside to say, we are so far left that we won't even talk about something if it's going to help Donald Trump, who was a president of the United States and will be president again.
Yeah, I mean, the people that just watch Fox are probably more informed than the people who just watch NPR because I interrupt Jessica less these days.
Also, we have more Democrats and independents that
Than
watch here than
CNN
anyone
or
else.
NPR
Combined.
or MSNBC.
And also, if you are at a liberal place like the New York Times, if you have somebody like Senator Tom Cotton write an op-ed, you get fired.
Yep.
So that's probably why they don't do it.
Yeah, it's called free speech. They don't believe in it.
How awkward is it going to be when this guy walks back into work tomorrow?
I think they all work remote.
Oh.
Probably.
Ahead, being black could be a tax write-off. Nice. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.